What up, nation? Welcome to a very special holiday edition, Christmas edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Early Look. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined once again on Christmas Eve with the GOAT, the true OG, Paulie D. Paulie, what's happening?
What's happening, man? Christmas edition time. One of the better slates of the year. NBA, a lot of fun. Christmas, you do the Christmas thing early, then you make some lineups, and then it's 12 hours, basically, Sweat City.
Yeah, man, there's really like what the NFL does for Thanksgiving and then what the NBA does for Christmas. It's just a beautiful thing. Obviously, you're spending time with your family, doing the Christmas dealios, but for most of us, we need a little something on the side to kind of keep us rolling through and hanging out with the who nots and the whatnots and whatever you want to call them. And it's always nice to have basketball to keep you on your toes. And I say keep you on your toes, especially with the COVID madness. I have a feeling we're going to have to do some late swap action. Because, number one, you normally do when you have games staggered this much. And number two, the COVID stuff is going to make that all that more interesting, kind of like what we had with opening night. And the Rockets getting canceled. Not canceled, not canceled, then canceled. So, yeah.
I get care less about the fucking Rockets game. But Darius was going to be low owned and drop dirties for us, and we missed.
We did have a couple good ones. I got a pat Paulie on the back where it's due. Alpha play on the Paulie's fast break sheet. The alpha play, Domantas Sabonis went out there and did dirties, just genuine dirties. So that was a good one. Now listen, obviously we had a couple bad calls as well, but we had a lot of really good ones mixed in there, and the ones that we had ended up being like a lot lower owned than we thought. We talked about Rozier on the pre-lock Y stream for our members, on FanDuel specifically, him being so cheap, and I mean, we could sit here back and forth. Like I said, we got plenty wrong. I was wrong with John Collins, Drummond. I had plenty of that shit that I kind of ate it with, but overall, just getting our feet wet. I know you had a profitable day. I fell short a little bit, but I felt good of like the hindsight deal, looking back, like, okay, kind of recognizing where your mistakes were. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, this is the third actual NBA regular season slate, and it happens to be Christmas. So, the big one where the games are staggered. You take it game by game. How do you usually approach the Christmas thing? Obviously, we know that usually the early games have a little more ownership to them. Did you put a heart on there? I just all of a sudden saw this big heart. I was just like, excuse me? Is that like the button when I say something you like? Hit the heart button real quick. Holla. That's it right there. Spread the love.
I just saw like the heart button. I'm like,
it's like playing with shit. I wonder what happens if I do this. But what do you usually like? How do you usually approach this shit? Christmas.
Not too different from a regular slate. Like MME, always NBA. Try to get as many teams as you can with as high a prize pool as possible. Try to core up a handful of players that I'm going to play between 50 to 75% exposure, or maybe more on a slate this small, and stay. Pay attention to it all day in case there is late swap shit to take advantage of, because that's one of the bigger edges you do have. I do like the idea of kind of game stacking, because I feel like, there's good when you have like a lot of like elite matchups like this, they tend to either be awesome close games or lopsided blowouts, and you kind of want to get the correlation. Like last night, the Boston-Milwaukee game went to overtime, or did it go to overtime? I think it almost went to overtime.
Giannis missed a free throw, man.
Yeah, Giannis missed a free, but it was so close in the end. Like, I think they got to like 240 points, and had they gotten to overtime, that would have been clearly the best game to stack. And, there was other games like the Bulls-Atlanta that, dudded because the Bulls didn't show up and you didn't get enough minutes from either side, really. So, with only 5 games, maybe there's one, maybe there's 2 that are really good. And the more you can kind of get from those, the better you're going to do. And, that's basically it, though, son.
No, I feel one thing I try to consciously do is like, don't get me wrong, a good play is a good play. I like that too. A good play is a good play, but I try not to go overboard on the early starts. Like I don't want to just sit here with like 60% game stacks at this Pelicans game, even though it does look really good and we like those spots. I'll pick my spots, but I don't want to go overboard. I want to make sure that I want to have a little something in those late games. You know me, I'm always like that, but especially on these slates, because a lot of people out there, once Christmas starts, their day is over. It's all about presents with the kids and all this shit. Listen, I got a kid on the way, so I understand. I might be in that world one day, but not too well tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Not me. Not at the moment. So I will be sitting there trying to late swap and taking advantage of all that goodness. All right, let's get into this. We're gonna go game by game. We've got the New Orleans Pelicans. It is 12:10 p.m. Eastern start. It's gonna be an early day. New Orleans Pelicans, Miami Heat. We've got a 224.5 total. The Heat currently 4.5 point favorites at home. Paulie, we'll talk about the New Orleans side first. What you see here?
So I'm torn about what to do with New Orleans. They, actually played a little bit slower yesterday than I anticipated. I mean, some of it maybe was on Toronto, who just kind of dudded. Toronto at home losing to New Orleans caught me by surprise and kind of convincingly. Like that game was over kind of early. Toronto did kind of, have a couple runs that brought them within like 8 or 10, and some of their starters did play deep into the fourth. But it's interesting. They do have Steven Adams there now, who's probably slowing some things down, and I wouldn't think Eric Bledsoe would contribute to that, but it's a little bit different dynamic of a team, and this is one of the lower totaled games out there, which, normally a New Orleans game is the highest. So just something to keep an eye on. I don't know if that's going to continue that trend, but they were actually the number one slowest team in the preseason, New Orleans. So, again, there was only a handful of games, but something to just kind of be aware of. Being the first game, I agree. I don't want to go overboard here. But, there's some spots that I can get behind. I think, Zion Williamson at 8-1, outside of Bam, they really just don't have any size, and Bam is like a good shot blocker, rebounder, but he's not like that big. Zion's certainly bigger than him. Like he should be able to do as many dirties as he wants. And I think if the game's close, he'll play big minutes. Like he didn't get as many minutes as like Ingram and some of the others because they were winning convincingly and they didn't really need to. But I think if the game's close, um, he will. Brandon Ingram, who was the star of the day yesterday, in a tougher spot, probably going to draw a lot of Jimmy Bucket's defense. I don't love going to him. I don't know what to do with Lonzo Ball and Eric Bledsoe. I feel like they're like really not suited to be on the court together much, but they did play a lot on the court together, and they kind of put up similar like statistics, similar shot attempts, similar makes, similar rebounds, assists. Bledsoe's 5'6", Lonzo Ball's 6'5". I think that will make Bledsoe a bit more popular, and I like the idea of grabbing one of them to correlate with Zion. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards Ball just out of I think that'll be like, I think Bledsoe could get like, 15 to 25% ownership. I think Lonzo Ball will be like 5 or less. So I like the idea of going Ball with Zion. I don't think I, look at Adams that much. There's not too much else. JJ Redick at 4-4 is kind of interesting. He played 28 minutes, took 14 shots, 11 of which were threes. He hit 6 of them. He had a couple rebounds, couple periffs. Like, that's not bad at 4-4, honestly, where we don't have a ton of value. So it's Zion, Lonzo, maybe a tad of Bledsoe, and JJ Redick that I've got the most interest in.
Yeah, just looking at New Orleans, it definitely seems like Zion's going to be like a matchup issue for Miami, right? Last year they had some issues with power forwards, and I think they went out and got a couple guys that they think maybe could help, but still, like they don't really have the size to compete with a big, like a guy who plays like a big like Zion, who could even play the 5. So I'm with you on that. I think that Zion kind of stands out to me. I think we see ownership gravitate towards Ingram, especially on FanDuel. Ingram's only 7-3 over there. And, I mean, we have to look at the position as a whole, but on FanDuel. But 7-3 for Ingram seems pretty attractive at a small forward position that's usually weak on FanDuel. Zion, though, I think it is the move, especially on DraftKings if I'm looking to pay those prices. I know Ingram did his thing, but Ingram is always going to be a little bit more scoring dependent than Zion because of the positions that they typically play. And again, I think you hit it on the head. I expect Butler to kind of be a lot on Ingram, and I don't really think they have a ton of answers for Zion. So I like that. I think Lonzo Ball will be lower owned than Bledsoe. I definitely agree. Their usage rates are around the same in the low 20s. It's just Bledsoe's cheaper, and I think he is underpriced again. It'll be hard not to take him, but I do agree with you, Paul. I think Lonzo in like game stack atmospheres is going to be significantly lower owned than Bledsoe because he costs a little bit more money. I like the JJ Redick call a lot. We don't have a ton of value that I think was like outstanding on this slate. Redick got a history with this coach, Stan Van Gundy. He was, I believe, he was the Magic coach when Redick was over there, in like his like kind of like his prime years. I'm pretty sure. But I know just listening to like JJ Redick got a podcast, just listening to his thing. I know he knows Stan Van Gundy very well. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he leaned on Redick more because he's familiar with his offensive concepts and he's familiar with JJ Redick as a player. I wouldn't be surprised if JJ Redick had like a larger role, I'll say, this year than he did last year on this team. I'd be surprised if he didn't. So I'm with you on those guys. Don't want to go overboard, but I think we could pick and choose. And, of course, I didn't even mention Steven Adams, who's 5'5" on FanDuel. He looked pretty good. I think in a close game, like you said, they're willing to keep this guy on the court. He is going to slow them down. And even Gundy in general, I think, is going to slow them down. But I'm looking at the bigs for sure, Zion and a little bit of Adams. And then, your choice of shooters and guards here. What about the Miami side?
So, although Toronto struggled, it seemed like their bigs, had decent stat lines. OG, I think, had close to 10 rebounds, scored points. What's his name? The center dude. Not the center. Siakam, Aaron Baines. They all had like 6 to 10 rebounds, a handful of blocks, like scored points in the paint where like the guards kind of struggled. And, I guess that's because of like, Lonzo Ball's defensibility, Brandon Ingram's and whatnot, or maybe the schemes that they run. So, when you look at Miami and their size, it's basically Bam Adebayo, who, at 7'8", is affordable. I really like him. After that, I don't mind Jimmy Butler, but 8K feels high. I think if you're like, in that area, you kind of just go up to the next tier and play one of the more stud guards. I liked Goran Dragic's usage off the bench. I think he ended up being their highest fantasy scorer, either him or Bam, and he did it in 25 minutes. I like that at his price. I don't mind the Tyler Hero at 5'6". I think this kid's really good. When he gets hot, he can, really, really perform. He was one of their better scorers in the postseason last year. He only went 1 of 5 from 3, and still ended up with 25 DraftKings points in 32 minutes. And then I think Kelly O is like, a 10% value play worth getting. He played kind of surprised. At least I didn't expect him to get 20 minutes, in a relatively close game. And, it wasn't that great. He only got 3 rebounds. But the 20 minutes, he's a guy that can hit threes. He's a guy that can get rebounds. And as I said, it seemed like New Orleans is a little bit more vulnerable down low. I think this is like an opportunity for like a 3% owned value guy. And maybe the game gets out of hand and he gets a little additional run. So Bam, Hero, Dragic, and a little bit of Kelly O.
Yeah, I like the call on Bam. FanDuel at 8,500, I think he'll come in. He may come in low just because people may not have come pay on the price. On DraftKings at 7.8, I think it's still within reach. He looked good. His usage was really high. That was one of the surprising things about Miami. It could have been because it was Toronto, but I don't really see anything there why it would have been that over anything else. Orlando. It's Toronto. Orlando. I don't see anything there why it would be anything else. I mean, I understand that Vooch isn't the best defender. He's not super aggressive defensively, but and I think I think he still looks pretty good to me. Butler, I agree. The price seems high. On FanDuel, if it's a raw points thing at the position, I'm okay with it. But the guys in tournaments that you have to work in are going to be Tyler Hero, like you said, because he took 14 shots, only made 6 of them. And we know that that's his strength is shooting. So those days where those shots do go in and he's shooting 50% or higher, he's just going to have massive upside at these kind of prices. The minutes were fine. You don't need, 35 minutes for a player like him if he's going to be taking those shots. And I don't see why he wouldn't. Dragic off the bench, the usage is awesome. 6-4 on FanDuel again. I think you'll see ownership kind of kept at bay. 5-3 on DraftKings. People are going to play him, and they should. I think that, people might see he's off the bench. That's what he does. And you know what? He's kind of comfortable smashing off the bench. So I'm with you. I mean, and you look at this team, when he's on that second unit, like you're always going to have Butler and Dragic running this offense. It's designed for those two guys to constantly run it. Once in a while, you'll see Tyler Hero get a chance to run it. But it seems pretty simple. So yeah, Butler is expensive, but obviously he's fine. Bam, I definitely like. And then working in the guards, holla at your boy, scream mode, all that good stuff. Next up, Golden State Warriors, Milwaukee Bucks. We have a 233 total, which is the highest on the board as of now. We've got the Bucks currently 10.5-point favorites at home, coming off a loss. Giannis missed the free throw. Unfucking real. Couldn't believe it. We'll start with the Golden State side, Paulie.
Yeah. So, Steph Curry at 10-2 is kind of interesting. The only reason I think he'll get some exposure is because it's the second game and the highest total game, but I really think he's going to be low owned on this slate at 10-2. Like, people are probably going to have blowout fears. People are, going to want to get guys like Kyrie who are like 1,400 cheaper, and you can have a better overall build. But Steph Curry had a really poor day shooting from outside. He was 2 of 10 from 3. And in 30 minutes, still went for 45 DraftKings points in a losing effort where he didn't get the final run, had usage close to 40%. And if this game does stay close, I don't see how it's not on the strength of Steph just going absolutely nutty, and you're going to get him at low ownership. I think he's like certainly interesting as part of game stacks of this game, and just as like a low owned pivot off of like a Giannis or a LeBron, AD, whoever. I expect him to be fairly low owned, and that's elite usage. We know he's capable of just as bad of a shooting day at from outside, 2 of 10. He could easily go 10 of 12 tomorrow, and um, break the slate, so to speak. So I do got interest in Steph. James Wiseman was hella impressive, getting 25 minutes. Got that blowout run where he really padded his stats. Kid looks like he's going to be a really solid player. Very similar looking to AD in my opinion. Just needs to kind of grow into his body and put on some weight and get some skills up. But man, he's got some serious freakish ability. At 6'2" against Milwaukee, a team that struggles with bigs. Again, if Golden State hangs in this game, I would think they have multiple guys that make the optimal lineup because the game's going to be so fast and high scoring. So he's another guy that if this game ends up close, there's a good chance he kind of exceeded his expectations. Then it's Wiggins and Oubre. What to do with them? Again, if this game stays close, I'm going to expect one of these two to do well. I don't think I will play Wiggins and Oubre in many lineups together all season unless Steph is out. So it's which one? It seems like Wiggins is, got the better usage and going to have the, better season, so to speak. But either or, I think they're both going to be kind of low owned. And, I do like the idea of getting a bunch of Golden State, running back some Milwaukee and some builds. Eric Paschall's price jumped up almost $1,000 after he had a complete dud. That's kind of funny. Nobody's going to play him. I don't mind him as well in some game stacks. Don't mind Marquez Chris. Maybe Weissman gets in foul trouble, guarding Giannis or whatever. And then I think it's worth getting 5 to 10% exposure to some of the Golden State value stacks if in fact they do get just boat raced, and Steph doesn't even see the court in the fourth quarter. And guys like Bazemore, Wanamaker, Poole, Damian Lee, and I guess James Weissman, or even Marquez Chris, could really pad their stats. So I like the idea of pairing a few of them, and maybe that scenario works out, and you get like 2 or 3 really low owned value plays that exceed value, and the rest of the lineup does well. So I don't mind that strategy as well with Golden State. But for the most part, I'm not going to have too much Golden State unless it's in stacks with Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think Golden State gives us an opportunity to go back to a team that kind of burnt everybody on the 2-game slate, right? And I could see. I could see on DraftKings people following that suit. Steph Curry will probably be popular on FanDuel. He's 8,700 over there. So he'll probably be popular over there. But on DraftKings, I agree. I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership because he's around. He's a little too close to Luka, to Giannis. There's too many guys around him. And I agree with everything you said about Golden State being a team where I'm a stack it or leave it. So yeah, I could play Steph alone, because he could do it in the first. He in 3 quarters. He can obviously return you enough of what you need on a slate this size. And the only other guy I like alone is probably the center Wiseman, because he seems to be game script proof. If they're gonna play him in garbage time, also, what we got to lose? Although I will say on DraftKings is 6'2". It is ambitious. 4-2 on FanDuel, Paulie. Wiseman is still 4-2 on FanDuel. That's just craziness. How I feel about Oubre and Wiggins? I think I am likely to actually play them together in some, not all of them, but I do think that you play Golden State guys in pairs, not named Steph Curry. Not to say you can't play Curry with these guys, but I agree with you. If this game is close against Milwaukee, it's gonna be because a couple people stepped up and had good games. Oubre and Wiggins are those next options that they relied on. The problem is neither of them shot well. They were both I think Wiggins was 1 for 6 from 3. Kelly Oubre was 0 for 6 from 3. They both ended up playing, not even breaking 30 minutes because the game was never really close since the first quarter. So if Golden State hangs in this game, yeah, Curry probably does well. Wiseman even probably does well. But you got to believe, like you said, one of, if not both, Oubre and Wiggins had to have done well. I can see it being a situation where they both kind of go for around that 40 or whatever. It's not a great mid-tier. We were talking about this before the show. It's not a great mid-tier slate, right? The mid-tier options are not as good as they looked on that 13-game slate we had just yesterday. So I could see that. That's how I'm approaching it. I don't think I want a whole ton. I'm not saying out of my 170 teams I won't have some Wiggins by himself, but for the most part, Golden State seems like a team where I kind of want to stack them together because that means they're hanging in there, or just kind of avoid them because they got their ass kicked. But obviously, if you're going stack side on Golden State, that means you're bringing it back with some Milwaukee Bucks. Paulie, which Bucks are you looking at?
Real quick on that Wiggins Oubre thing, looking at their rotations, um, they did stagger quite a bit, and Wiggins pretty much got the end of the first, beginning of the second, the end of the third, beginning of the fourth, without Oubre and Curry, right? Oubre pretty much played alongside Curry the whole game, and Wiggins got some run without the two. So, to me, if you're going to include Curry, it's with Oubre, and then Wiggins versus Oubre, I prefer Wiggins because he's going to have those little bursts where he gets a bunch of the usage and probably can elevate. So I think Oubre is going to correlate more with Steph. Wiggins kind of more on his own, just looking at the way their rotations were in that first.
I can dig it.
Yeah. All right. So Milwaukee. Giannis, 42% usage or whatnot. Golden State ain't got nothing for him. He's got the highest ceiling on the slate. They could smash Golden State and he could get 60, 70 and 3 quarters. If the game does, somehow stay close, he could absolutely go bananas. I don't think you need much Golden State, with Milwaukee, but I think you definitely want some Milwaukee exposure on this slate. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for reverse jinxing Chris Middleton for you yesterday. I took a pretty hard stand against him. And, whenever I do that, those guys tend to do well. So
reverse jinx is real.
Way to go, me. Reverse jinx is certainly real for you. I took the bullet.
Generous.
Yeah. It surprised me the 12 rebounds, the high usage, the assists. Giannis actually had a really slow start to this game. Um, it's something to keep an eye on. Like, this is a different team than it was the last 3 years. The addition of Drew Holiday, some departures, different rotations. DiVincenzo moving into the starting lineup. Um, Pat Connaughton got like mid-20s minutes. That was kind of surprising. So, certainly, think Giannis, if I was building a cash lineup, he'd probably be the top stud for that. I think DiVincenzo's price at 4.7, again, on a slate where we don't have a ton of value, that's, certainly a guy you want to get some exposure to. Took 11 shots, played 27 minutes. Um, Rebounds got 5, assists got 3, steals got 2, hit 3 of 4 3-pointers for 30 DraftKings points. Like, that might be as good as it gets in terms of value plays this weekend. On Christmas. So I don't mind that. I don't mind Chris Middleton at 7.4. Um, I don't think I get much Drew Holiday at all, but he did go for 42. Shot very well, 9 of 12, and handful of peripherals, some steals, some assists, a block, 6 rebounds. As long as the game's close, all these guys could do well. Golden State's going to be terrible defensively. This game's going to play very fast. But, like, I don't think I do many lineups with multiple Bucks unless I'm bringing back Golden State. It's going to be more so like, the build is either like Milwaukee blows out Golden State and I just do like one guy or one stud, one value, or it's a close-ass game and I want as many from both sides as I can get. And I would say Giannis, DiVincenzo, Middleton are the 3 I've got the most interest in right now.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, there's no answer here for Giannis. In NBA, I always look for a good narrative, and like Giannis missing the game-winning free throw against Boston is the ultimate narrative for me in this game. Right? I don't want to limit it to. There's a lot of good shit out there in the NBA, but I expect Giannis to come back fast and furious. That can't feel good. He wants to get that taste out of his mouth. Now he's going to be on Christmas, doing dirties to a team that really has no answer for him. So. I think Middleton is fine. Middleton I liked yesterday because of the spot. Not to say this is any worse of a spot per se, but Boston for whatever reason has really struggled against guys that could shoot the ball. And it wasn't even just the shooting, right? The 14 rebounds kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, I'm with you on that. A game stack is one thing. But that's the only way I'm really reaching the Middletons or the Holidays is if I'm game stacking. Otherwise, I'll play Giannis as a one-off by himself. I don't even hate the idea of doing like 4 Golden State guys and just Giannis by himself because he's expensive and you want him to get as many fantasy points as possible. And then the other ones is as you mentioned also Dante DiVincenzo. This is a slate where the value doesn't look great. He looks decent. I understand he's volatile. He's going to have games where he puts up 15 even though the minutes were there because the shots didn't fall. It's not like he's a usage monster. But whenever you got a cheap option there that is going to take, you would think, a double-digit shot attempts, I would say at least 10, 11 shots a game, assuming he's going to maintain those minutes. I'm all for it. So one thing I will say is defensively, Golden State, just like last year, is not going to be good. They're not. When Draymond comes back, that'll help to a degree, obviously. But without Clay, like you're looking at Wiggins and Oubre as your answers on defense, not good. Simple as that. Next up, Paulie, we've got the Brooklyn Nets, Boston Celtics. We have a 227.5 total. The Nets currently favored by 3 on the road. Talk to me about Brooklyn first.
Yeah, so this is my favorite game to stack on the slate. I think this is the number 1 and 2 best teams in the East right now. Philly, Milwaukee, not too far behind, but I think these are the 2 best teams. I really like the Boston youth. And I think this Brooklyn team's going to win the championship this year. I mean, they're just so loaded. As long as they stay healthy, they're going to be a lot of fun for DFS and just for in general fans of basketball. Kyrie versus old team on Christmas. Boston's traditionally been pretty bad against guys that can get hot from outside. Kyrie is certainly that. Kyrie's kind of matchup proof. There's really no one in the league that can shut him down when he's feeling it from outside and you try to get up on him and he blows right by you. And in 25 minutes, he went for 40 DraftKings points in a blowout against Golden State. This game, I really expect to stay close. And I like the idea of one of Kyrie or Durant. I don't even mind them together, but to get some of the good shit on Boston too, you're not going to be able to get both of them and studs from Boston. They're just too expensive. I like the spot for DeAndre Jordan. Outside of like streaky shooting guards, bigs against Boston's been a thing for a while. Yes, they did bring in Tristan Thompson, so maybe that does start to change a little. But DeAndre Jordan at 5'6", he only got 17 minutes in that blowout. If the game's close, I'm sure he'll likely get closer to 25 or 30. And at that price tag, he can certainly do very well with that. Joe Harris, caught me a little by surprise with all the studs and stars on these teams. I thought he would kind of be a guy that stood in the corner a lot and didn't do much. Only took 8 shots, hit 2 of 3 from outside, 2 of 5 from outside, but 7 rebounds, a couple assists, a block, and only in 20 minutes as well. Again, they blew out Golden State. He's all right as a value play. I don't want to overreact though. Like, maybe that was towards the higher end of his range of outcomes, and he'll probably be a little bit more popular than he should because of that. Karis LeVert's price is up. He actually led this team in usage in 25 minutes, went for 45 points, was 3 of 5 from 3, although he only shot 3 of 12 from outside. From inside the 3-point line. 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, a block, and again, only in 25 minutes. And if this game's close, he should get a ton of minutes. Take a look at their rotations right quick, because I'm curious to see if LeVert did those dirties by himself. Okay, so yeah, LeVert's pretty much the second unit go-to guy. Where's Durant? Okay, so LeVert basically came in for Kyrie towards the end of the first quarter, and then Kyrie replaced him towards the end of the second. LeVert did come in and close with them the last few minutes of the second. Then he came out for Kyrie again in the third. Kyrie replaced him. Oh, no, Kyrie did not, because then they kind of went to the deeper bench. So LeVert, similar to Wiggins, is going to have those bursts of like he's the go-to guy on the court. Don't love the 7-2 price tag, but again, I think these guys see way more minutes, and we saw what they're capable of and much less. After that, I don't think I get too much more here. Like, there's just too many mouths to feed that it's hard to see a guy like a Jared Allen or Torrey Prince, have the opportunity to do very well outside of just some variants going the wrong way things. So it's Kyrie, Durant, LeVert, DeAndre Jordan, maybe a sprinkle of Joe Harris, but mostly Durant and LeVert and Kyrie, and mostly just like one of them. Like, I think if I'm gonna have like stacks, I'm gonna have more Boston getting the pace up versus I think it's gonna be rare that with Durant, Irving, and LeVert all kind of having their hands in the pie, like it's gonna be rare that they all fucking smash City. Like, I think one could ceiling out and the other two just kind of like make value or maybe disappoint. So probably them mostly as one-offs with more Boston coming back.
Yeah, looking at it, it's always going to be tough to play Durant and Irving together because of their prices. You expect them both to be pretty expensive throughout the season, and so it could be tough. On FanDuel, it's not bad. 8-9 for Kyrie, 8-5 for Kevin Durant. I think it's feasible over there. On DraftKings, I like Kyrie significantly more. It's not even about the narrative. We talk about narratives. This is obviously a narrative. Kyrie going back into Boston. We know his time there didn't really go well, didn't really end well. To say he wasn't really well liked by Jason Tatum and Brown, like they all seem to be doing backflips once Kyrie left. So, and they've really embraced Kemba over there. So obviously they didn't seem to get along much with Kyrie. But I do like Kyrie on both sites. He's probably one of my favorite point guards on the slate. One of my favorite studs. I think he's underpriced. I mean, he was on pace to go for that the ownership that he warranted last slate. He was on pace to hit that. It's just not his fault the other team didn't show up and he blew him out and didn't get all his run. I'm okay with working in some Kevin Durant, but I do think my next favorite stop is going to be Karis LeVert. Now on DraftKings it's 7-2. It's a little bit of a stretch. You're playing a guy that's coming off the bench, not really sure what his minutes are going to look like. I think he's going to close with them in a close game, like you've seen in the pattern, right? But however, when that happens, you can't expect him to maintain that 33% usage rate that he's got in the second unit all by himself. So it's kind of a catch-22. But yeah, these are the three main pieces. Working in your Joe Harris's because we don't have a ton of value on DraftKings at 5-3. It's not super great. 4-3 on FanDuel, not bad. Same thing with DeAndre Jordan. We really didn't get a chance to see what this rotations, what this split's really going to look like because the game was a fucking blowout. But DeAndre Jordan is only $4,500 on FanDuel. So Jared Allen's only 4.8. So FanDuel is definitely a lot softer with the pricing as expected. But Karis LeVert on FanDuel is 5.8. 5.8 for Karis LeVert on FanDuel. That's where you play him. If you're uncomfortable playing him on DraftKings, go over to FanDuel and play him over there.
Yeah.
But
like LeVert's a guy who can have 5 steals in a game, and the point there, like.
The usage is just massive. Like Kyrie and Durant are playing together a lot. LeVert's getting a lot of time all by himself with these same players that Paulie mentioned. He don't want to play your Landry Shamet's, Taurean Prince, and all this. Those are the guys that Karis LeVert's coming on the court with. It's Karis LeVert. It's the Karis LeVert show at that point. So if they start him, that fucks it up. So I'm hoping that they continue to play him off the bench because the minute they start him, you're losing that at least initial burst where he's got all the usage to himself. Because when he's on there with Kyrie and Durant, the usage they might all split. It's gonna hurt all of them when they're all on the court together. They're all because that's how it is. But I like Kyrie a lot. I think he's underpriced for the role for everything. What about the Boston side, Paulie? I know you're really high on Boston and the players going into the season.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I think like when you don't see something coming and then it happens, you respect it more because it surprised you. And Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, I did not think we're gonna emerge as stars. I thought Boston was gonna fall behind in the arms race in the East. And these two dudes are legit, and props to their scouting departments or whatever. Wow. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are just absolute beasts. Jason Tatum had a 40% usage rate in this first game against Milwaukee. That is absolutely elite. He's significantly cheaper than the other two dudes who had that same usage rate in Giannis and Luka on that first day. So he's really interesting, and I think going to be extremely low owned at 9.3. He's the last guy people want to play at that price point. They want to play Luka and Giannis. So you're talking about a 5% owned stud against a fast-paced team, and it seems like Jason Tatum is pretty much matchup proof. He did all that against Giannis and company. Again, I really like this game. I like it as a game stack. And then Jaylen Brown, holy shit, at 7K, 30% usage, 52 DraftKings, shot 13 of 24, which is decent. But the 24 attempts, just as long as Kemba's out. And now no more Gordon Hayward, he's, taking on a much bigger role. And, his price doesn't really reflect that. And he really didn't even do that great peripheral. 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, a block, but he contributed to every category they have. And I think he's got upside to do more. And, I like the two of them a ton. And Jeff Teague is probably the best value play on the slate. Optimally wise, probably going to be one of the more popular value plays. Got 25 minutes, took 15 shots, was 4 of 4 from 3, got 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block for 36 DraftKings points. And until Kemba comes back, I just expect those minutes to continue and for that kind of usage to be there. He's going to be drawing Kyrie defense, which is pretty much non-existent. So I like that. Hard to ignore at that price point. Marcus Smart going to be 1% owned. Went for 17 at a down game, but that's what he is. He's really, really streaky. He only took 3 shot attempts. That could, he could turn around and take 15 and have multiple steals. He did get 7 assists, which I like. 6'6", it's tough to play him, but I think he's a guy that's going to be 1%, and you want to at least get 5% exposure, especially in different combinations of game stacks here. Um, Daniel Tice, I guess I'll get a couple shares of. Again, we just don't have a ton of value at 5'4". He's like an easy to kind of include in the stack. Tristan Thompson at 5'2", he got 22 minutes. I think he's actually like the more fantasy friendly player over Tice, and hopefully like the minutes will continue because he's got double upside, and DeAndre Jordan is not a good defender, so like maybe get some points as well, tip-ins, whatnot. I don't mind him. And that's really it. But Tatum, Teague, Jalen Brown, three are like my favorite plays on the whole slate.
Yeah, I would agree with the Tatum and Brown take specifically. I know tournaments. I mean, I know pricing wise, it's hard to put him in the cash conversation. Well, at least Brown because of the price he's at a weird place, but the usage looks phenomenal, especially for Tatum. I know Brown had an even better game when you look at pricing, but Tatum's usage was fucking impressive. He only played 33 minutes in that game, and the usage was incredible. Going up against Giannis, who Giannis played like 36 minutes, which is not normal. That's not normally they do. So yeah, Kevin Durant, I expect to be on Tatum at least at points, and Kevin Durant is very long, but he's not very hard. You know what I'm saying? He's long, but he's not very hard. So I don't really give a fuck. I think Tatum balls out. I think Tatum specifically is gonna Tatum and Brown and Smart. Those three players want to stick it to Kyrie. Don't tell me otherwise. They want to fucking show Kyrie we know we're better without you. You sucked. Go to Brooklyn. Go whatever Go eat a dick, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Do it dirty style. But needless to say, GPPs really like this game as a game stack, like you'd mentioned, and not even a game stack. I want Kyrie, and then give me some Tatum and Brown, and I'll work in some Teague for value, like you said on FanDuel. He's 5'8". That's crazy. DraftKings at 4'2". That's also crazy, but for the opposite end of the spectrum. And then the big situation, it's like Thompson's on a little bit of a minute restriction, and they were playing him at the 4, which I thought was strange. They kind of started them both together, or one of them is at the 4. This is normally a spot we like to attack bigs with, and Thompson is definitely the one I'd much prefer over Tice. But at the same time, Thompson's minute restriction kind of worries me a little bit. So I'll work them in. I agree with you that the Boston side is more attractive as a whole. Marcus Smart shouldn't be forgotten. I'm not saying I'll have a lot of Marcus Smart, but I will have some. He had like a 7% usage rate. That's not always going to be the case. And in this game, he may want to step it up because he's going to be the main guy guarding Kyrie, I think, for most of the time. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Tatum's a phenomenal GPP play. Same thing with Jalen Brown, and then working in the other guys certainly on the table. But this looks like one of the most attractive games. We expect it to be close. Little potential preview, some playoff action in the East. Next up, Mavericks, Lakers. We have a 227.5 total. Lakers currently 6.5 point favorites at home. Luka kind of looked how he looked in the preseason, right? Like still good, but not as good as last year fantasy wise. But obviously, it was just one game. What are you doing with him in the Mavs?
Yeah, so like I hope that's like the general perception on Luka, like because it's a preseason and one game sample, and like this guy's gonna be in the MVP conversation. The 40% plus usage rate, you just continue to play that. He was 0-6 from 3. That's not gonna happen very often. Guy is a lethal outside shooter. Love the fact that he took 26 shot attempts, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, no peripherals. Um, you know, the sky's the limit. The guy can drop 80s. And on prime time, Christmas against the Lakers, against LeBron, like if this game's close, it's because Luka's just absolutely dirtying out there. And then, I think Jay Rich and Tim Hardaway are like perfect complementary pieces for him as he drives, he kicks out, and if they're hot from outside, Luka's assist totals are gonna just continue to creep upwards. I like, pairing him with either one of those two. I think Josh Richardson is a little less scoring dependent than Tim Hardaway Jr. I think Richardson can, he got 7 rebounds. He can go out and get you some steals. Bit of a better defender, so like, not much risk of coming off. Maxi Kleber, I think I was really impressed. Got 27 minutes off the bench. Only went for 15 DraftKings points, but against the Lakers, they're really gonna need his size. He's 3'5", and like he could probably get some blowout run too if they do end up getting smoked. Took 8 shots, 7 of which were threes, right? Like on DraftKings at 3'5", he literally needs to hit 4 threes, and he's almost at value. So, he only had 3 rebounds. He certainly can get way more than that. I just think they're going to need him on the court because of all the size the Lakers have. Yeah, give me some Maxey. I'm sure he'll, gain some ownership as well. Don't mind Dorian Finney-Smith. He'll probably stay on the court as long as the game is close to guard LeBron. Never been a great scorer, but he does contribute and seems to be like, getting better as he's, getting more experience. And then I don't mind taking a shot on Jalen Brunson or Trey Burke. They both kind of got minutes around 18 to 20. They both took, a handful of shots. We know they're both like, can get hot and uh, play well, and they both probably would get a significantly high usages if they were playing on the court during blowout run. It'd be easier if we didn't have to choose between the two, but I think they're both worth getting like sprinkles of ownership, in case the game does blow out or just because they have some decent ceilings as value plays in case one of them gets hot. Other than that, I don't think there's much. I mean, James Johnson's something I'll keep my eye on, but he only played 13 minutes in that first game. That's not enough. But like last year on Minnesota, when he was getting 20 plus minutes, he was like, a point per minute beast. We'll see. Like, I don't know if it's just he doesn't have enough time with this team that he doesn't know the offense and play calls that they can't play him, or, he's just fading in terms of talent. But that's more of like a down the road thing. We'll see. If his minutes start to increase, he'd be a guy we could look at. I don't see much else. It's mostly Luka with like +1, right? Whether it's Kleber, Richardson, Tim Hardaway, and then I don't mind taking just like, one-off value shots on Trey Burke or Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, I mean, Luka's definitely the one, right? I anticipate myself getting the most of him. The usage is there, everything's there. Porzingis is still not here. He's still gonna be a usage freak. So yeah, love Luka. I'll be loading up on him. Hopefully the field does drop him a little bit. I mean, he'll be owned, and rest assured he'll be owned. But maybe he won't be as popular as he should be. That's the hope. But definitely playing a lot of Luka against the Lakers. You mentioned Kleber for value on DraftKings. You need it. FanDuel, he's 5,300. He's not really doing much for you there. DraftKings 3,500. He could help make some things work. And then Dorian Finney-Smith, man, another value option on FanDuel is the reverse. He's 42 over there, 48 on DraftKings. But the guy plays big-ass minutes. He will tomorrow or, against the Lakers. And he takes shots. He takes shots, grab boards. He does a little something. Not a big usage guy, but just a guy that's on the court and just racks up a lot of minutes and has really, even in the preseason, has really come through pretty much on 3 straight games, including the first regular season game. What about the Lakers side, man? Looks like they were a little conservative with LeBron and AD, as they kind of said they would. At what point do they push the pedal?
I think Christmas they will. I think LeBron gets up for this game. I think AD will. I think they'd like to beat Luka and the Mavs. Um, and I think that's part of why they were conservative against the Clippers. You know, it was strange because it wasn't like they got blown the fuck out. Like, they really like, they fell behind a little bit and they're like, whatever, we don't need this game. It didn't really try that hard to get back. The only guy who seemed like they were trying out there was Schroeder and Harrell. But on Christmas, I do think the stars show up, prime time game. I think this is the 8 p.m. game. It's going to be, on like national TV. I like LeBron. I like AD. I don't think they're going to be that popular because now we're into the 4th game of the night. There's all these concerns about minutes and whatnot. And Dallas is going to play super fast and they can't stop anything, especially size. So I like both them. Don't even mind playing them together. Dennis Schroeder, like, that caught me by surprise. Certainly didn't think he was going to grab 12 rebounds in 27 minutes. The 8 assists thing, I'm not totally shocked by, but I thought he was going to come off the bench and thought, LeBron was going to play the point, and that wasn't the case. Schroeder had the ball in his hand a ton, almost a 30% usage rate. Didn't even shoot very well. 5 of 15 overall, 2 of 5 from three, 3 of 10 from inside. Only got to the free throw line twice, but almost triple doubled. Like I don't know if that's real or not, but I feel like he's going to be fairly popular, and I think you got to get some. But I'm like, you know, maybe he draws Josh Richardson D and he struggles. Like I'm not that into him. I think he's cheaper on FanDuel though. Like maybe he plays him some more there, but can't ignore what he did, and maybe that's going to continue. So you got to get some, but I'll probably be underweight. Same goes for Montrez. Like very impressed. I love him. So happy that he's getting a chance to play. Like I thought it was messed up that the Clippers really didn't want to like give him enough run last year, and he's certainly good enough. And a double threat. Dallas doesn't have much size, but again, I think he'll be one of the more popular Lakers. I'm more into AD LeBron, but that's like it. I don't think I get much KCP, although he's viable. He did kind of tweak his ankle, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. But again, we don't have a ton of value, so maybe KCP at 4.6. You can get some. Kyle Kuzma at 5.9. I do not understand that price tag. Um, I don't really see anything else I'm interested in. Like, mostly 18.
So outside of LeBron and AD, this team has like a totally different like level of appeal on FanDuel, right? So Kuzma's 4.2 on FanDuel. Harrell is 5.1. Schroeder is 5K. Expect those three guys to be pretty popular, or maybe if maybe not Kuzma because he hasn't really performed consistently. But I do think Schroeder and Harrell will be extremely popular over there. I think they'll be owned on DraftKings, maybe not as much, but we talk about a weak mid-tier, and I think those are two guys that people are going to prefer to go to over like your Oubres and Wiggins, obviously. So I'm working them in on tournaments is fine on DraftKings and FanDuel. They're like pretty much. I think they're bordering cash plays here at this point at 5K and 5.1 for these two, and that's kind of what I expect to see throughout the season. Is some slates where AD and LeBron aren't delivering, and Schroeder and Harrell are the guys, and then some slates where it's just the AD and LeBron show, or even just one of them. I lean towards the AD LeBron show. I think that a lot of people may try to go balance because we don't have that super strong value that looks great. And I think that we could see like groups of these studs going lower owned. We'll see how I look. Right now, I know a lot of projections, even our projections. I haven't done the manual dive in, just kind of went off what we saw. And if you go off the minutes that we saw in the first game, which is obviously not telling us what's going to happen in the future all the time, like AD and LeBron's minutes are capped. So I think we're going to see a lot of projection sources out there where the minutes are capped. I'm going to elevate Davis's and LeBron's minutes come game day. In our projections, which are available for download at WiseTake.com if you're a member of the WiseTake Nation. So as we get closer to the slate, you'll see their minutes increase and their projections are going to look a whole lot better. But I'm with you. I think this is, I do really like LeBron a lot. I think he represents a matchup issue as well as Anthony Davis. So Schroeder and Harrell, I'll play a little bit more on FanDuel where they're cheap. On DraftKings, though, I'm looking at AD and LeBron for sure from this game. We'll move on to the last game of the night, of the day, Paulie. The Clippers Nuggets. We have a 224 total. Clippers are 2.5-point favorites on the road in Denver. We'll start with the Clippers side.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying this game's gonna have like so little ownership. I don't think any player on either side will end up more than 20% owned, and probably neither get even that high. DraftKings wise, Kawhi's pricey, but he's a stud. And, if the Clippers play well again, it's probably going to be on the strength of him doing pretty well. Paul George, played decent, 35 minutes, 18 shot attempts, 30% usage, was 5 of 8 from 3, had a couple rebounds, some assists. But 8.7's up there. Like he doesn't fucking smash that price all that often. I definitely want to go back to Lou Williams. Was thrilled to see him get 25 minutes and a game where like they kind of won easily, and he didn't really close out because they didn't need him. I think Serge Ibaka is certainly viable. They're going to need some size against Denver. Nick Batum at 4.5. The guy played 28 minutes and got 23 DraftKings points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Only took 4 shots. But as long as you're going to get those peripherals, again, there's not much value. He's in that pool. Luke Kennard, I like. He got 21 minutes, and like I said, they paid him. Pat Beverly, actually, that really impressed me. Um, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 of 5 from three, 22 DraftKings points in 22 minutes. That guy's like the heart and soul of their team. And, they should use him a bunch to guard Jamal Murray. Don't mind Zubac as well. I don't love anything on the Clippers, but they probably have the largest player pool of any team on this slate for me, because I think there's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that are somewhat viable on this slate. But outside of game stacks and like the late night hammer factor, like I like having at least one guy from this game or two in my lineups to still have hope. But the low owned game stack, this game could certainly be the highest scoring on the slate, is where I think it's most worth getting exposure, just because of the significantly lower ownership than most of the other games on the slate.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Late Night Hammer, I'm going to want some. Obviously, it's not my favorite game per se, looking at the real context of the game itself. But game theory wise, knowing the ownership on this game is going to be low, despite the fact that we have some firepower players, right? Like Kawhi Leonard isn't exactly a slouch. You could argue that he's, last year everybody was on his dick saying he's the best player in the league, which I do think he's one of the best players in the league. He had a bad game against the Lakers. I think he took 28 shots and only made 10 of them. But the usage was close to 40. He's clearly the alpha on this team. Paul George's usage was somewhere in the mid-20s. I think on FanDuel at 7.6, we see elevated ownership on him because he is cheap. But I thought that last slate, he was really cheap on both sides. And on both sides, he was low owned. So, fuck what I know. But I do think that the ownership on Kawhi is going to be really low. He's kind of in that place we talked about. Tatum, Durant, like there's other guys, Giannis, all at that forward position. And the only argument I have for him is ownership. But yeah, working these guys in, I think is a smart move. Some Serge Ibaka, maybe some Zubac. Lou Williams did play 26 minutes. I was hoping the usage would have been higher. It wasn't, but it is what it is. I think we see that go up and down throughout the season. And like you said, it was a vote of confidence seeing him play at least 25, 26 minutes. That was good to see. But yeah, this is a team that I'll probably force myself to get at least some shares of. Nothing over the top on anyone; they don't stand out. But just to have something, so when Late Night Hammer comes, I got some skin in the game, and I'm not just left there with my dick in my hands. Denver.
Yeah, Denver, man, they got too many mouths to feed. It's hard to project who's gonna have the big game. I mean, Jamal Murray was MVP caliber in the playoffs last year. He drops an 18 fantasy point performance in 35 minutes, 1 of 9 shooting, only took 5 threes, had 1 assist. How the fuck did that happen? Well, it happens because, Paul Millsap all of a sudden was aggressive. Michael Porter Jr. is like an alpha out there. Will Barton's back and played a ton of minutes and took a bunch of shots. Gary Harris is out there. Jokic. You don't know who it's going to be. And that makes it really hard to decide who to who to want to play. But Jamal Murray at 8.5, I can't see getting very much of that. That's just yikes. And we certainly know he can get 60s, but last year they was dealing with a lot more injury and had guys, that aren't even on the team anymore, playing a lot of minutes. And now they're pretty healthy, and it just makes it tough. I mean, Jokic, for sure, he triple-doubled, was the highest scoring player on the slate 2 days ago against Sacramento. This is an equally good spot. Bigs have crushed the Clippers. I certainly think you want to get some exposure to him. I think Michael Porter Jr. is a phenomenal mid-tier player. The guy's just an alpha scorer. A little bit of a defensive liability, but that really shouldn't impact him until the playoff time. Paul Millsap at 4.9 is a really attractive value play if he's going to continue to play this aggressively. Will Barton getting 33 minutes, going for 31 fantasy points. I'm shocked after how long he's been out, but he is a really, really good player. It's hard to really like much from Denver just because of that fact of a lot of mouths to feed. If I was gonna, game stack this with the Clippers, I think Jokic, Porter, Millsap are the three that I'd have the most exposure to. But I don't mind Gary Harris, and if Jamal Murray, I haven't even looked at FanDuel, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's like under 6K over
He's
there.
7-8 Murray.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
pricey. Tough to play him at 8.5 or even 7.8. And same kind of goes for Will Barton. Like I don't see him going for 40 that much unless somebody's out. Well, again, like I said, I think there's just value in stacking this game because of how low owned it's going to be. But outside of Michael Porter and Millsap and Jokic, nobody really stands out that much that like I would play at high ownerships, not in game stack.
It definitely seems like the team kind of finally really bet on Michael Porter Jr., right? Like obviously he was a high pick for them. They were big on him. But we saw in the playoffs he was a defensive liability. Teams were literally switching until they got the matchup on him and taking him. And they don't even have Torrey Craig anymore. So they don't really have that guy. They could just run out there and play defense. So I think that's kind of like, Will Barton is that guy. And he's not really a defender. It's not what his deal is. So I'm with you on Denver. This is too many mouths to feed. It makes it difficult. I think that Barton on FanDuel at 5.2 is pretty decent. Millsap on both sides, I think, will be popular. We don't have a ton of value. He's cheap on both sides. He's been balling since the preseason. He could be popular. I will note, not for whatever it's worth, he did not play well against this team in the playoffs last year. I think he had like one, maybe two good games against them in the entire postseason. But again, this Millsap has looked a little bit different. He's looked way more aggressive. He's grabbing boards. He's moving. Maybe early in the season he got some fresh legs. So Millsap's actually probably my favorite one here, and I agree with you that Michael Porter kind of falls in to that mid-range that we think will be somewhat low-owned because it's not attractive looking, so incorporate him in those kind of builds as well. But I agree, Denver, I want to get some, but they're a little more spread out. It's a little easier for me to pick the Clipper guys in this situation. Nation, that's going to do it for the early look on the Christmas Day slate. Appreciate those of you who took the time to listen, watch, all that good shit. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button. It really helps us out. Allows us to continue to do what we do. We did do a giveaway for a free NBA season pass on our last show. We've got the results for that. We'll go over with the winner on Twitter. I don't think anybody got it directly, but we had a couple guys come, or at least one guy come really close. So we'll probably just do the deed that way. But, I'll let your boy. But yeah, so we'll be trying to do some more giveaways, give away some free content, all that good shit as time goes on. Matter of fact, we should do one right now on YouTube, shouldn't we? We'll do a YouTube giveaway right now for those of you listening. But it's fucking Christmas, so we have to do a giveaway. So we're gonna give away another season pass. We're gonna another season pass. This one's gonna be simple, right? This is for the YouTube folk out there. If you're listening on Podbean or iTunes or Twitch, go over to our YouTube channel and you have to leave the answer in the comments. That's how we're going to do it. Real easy, real simple. Paulie, you pick the player. They're guessing DraftKings points, but you guess the player. You pick the player.
All right. Why don't we go with Kyrie?
Kyrie Irving, I like it. Kyrie Irving, DraftKings points. Leave your guess. You have to like the video, obviously. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube and leave a comment with your guess. DraftKings points only. How many DraftKings points does Kyrie Irving score on the Christmas Day slate? Winner gets an NBA DFS season pass at WiseTake.com. Holla at your boy all day. So hit the like button, subscribe. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
No, man. Merry Christmas. Good luck.
That's right. And I have one more thing. I will be writing an article. Paulie will have a fast break. Our projections and cheat sheets all will be up for the Saturday slate. So if you're listening to this and you want a little bit more, you want to know we're on closer to the time, get a day pass. $2.50 to try us out. $2.50 try us out. Go grab one. Paulie D, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.